everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we're doing pages 102 to 129. It is freaking hot in here. Like insanely hot, like oh my god hot. And the reason why we're doing 102 to 129 is because we're making this book a two-parter. Yep, this entire story in the flesh is becoming a two-parter. But that's okay because this should be easy with Matt and Jason and all that. So, well, even though we're in hot weather, let's begin. What if Matt could use this date as an opportunity to charm Megan away from Jason? Megan was clearly more compatible with Matt, and maybe there would be no hard feelings since Jason could have Eva as a consolation prize. Plus, maybe getting his love life in order might give Matt the pieces he needed to figure out whatever the problem in the game was and fix it once and for all. When the waiter came with their salads, Matt said, "I think we'd like to get a bottle of Pinot Gringo, or the table." "Very good, sir," the waiter said. "Thanks, man," Jason said. "Big spender." Matt shrugged. "You can't be stingy if you're going to have a good time. It takes money to have good food, good wine, good friends." "It doesn't take money to have good friends," Eva said. "So what?" She was going to pick an argument with him. "Well, it does. It takes money to have a good time with your friends. How about that?" Matt said. "Not really," Eva said, pushing her salad around her plate. "Some of the best times I've ever had with friends have been just hanging out and talking." "Yes, but good food and good wine certainly enhance conversation," Matt said. "But do you think, Megan?" "Well, they can," Megan said, "but I agree with Eva. Sometimes the best times are just hanging out in your pajamas, talking all night, and eating peanut butter out of a jar." Matt figured Megan didn't want to make her friend feel bad. But when the wine arrived, Matt offered to pour some of Eva, but she put her hand over her glass and said, "No, thank you, I don't drink." Well, she's no fun, Matt thought. He poured wine for Jason and then poured Megan's glass extra full, more than she drank, the more charming she would find him. Over dinner, Matt told interesting stories about his life and accomplishments. Sure, they may have felt a little guilty that he didn't let Jason get a word in edgewise, but it was important that Megan get to know the kind of guy he was. Between the entrees and tiramisu, Jason and Eva both excused themselves to go to the restroom, leaving Matt on the table alone with Megan. The opportunity couldn't have been more perfect. "So, I know you've got this thing going with Jason now because, well, opposites attract, I guess," Matt said, smiling at her. The candlelight shined in her golden hair. She was lovely. "But I just want to say I find you devastatingly attractive, and I'd like to give you my number, just in case you'd like it for, future reference." Megan's blue eyes flashed. "I thought you and Jason were best friends." Matt was surprised to hear her anger in her voice. "Well, we are. But you know what they say, all fair in love and war." "Because they say it doesn't mean it's true," Megan said. "All evening you've talked about nothing more about yourself and how great you supposedly are. Maybe Jason isn't well dressed as you and doesn't have an impressive job as you, but he's great because he's nice, caring guy." Matt wasn't going to sit there and take this abuse from yet another delusional woman. "Well, I hope you enjoy your life of poverty and your nice, caring guy," he said, getting up from the table. He was so angry, he felt smoke might come out of his ears, as though he were a character in an old cartoon. "This evening just has been another disaster. I trust that you and Jason will be nice enough to be our alleged date. What's her name? A ride." He grabbed a wine bottle and marched out of the restaurant. It was only then his car was realized he left without paying his part of the bill. Good, he thought. Let him take care of it. Served them right for not appreciating him. He drove home too fast, thinking of what a wretched day it had been. Felt like the problems with the game had infected his whole life, but that was going to change. Matt woke up feeling strangely queasy. Usually morning tummy trouble was a symptom of having drunk too much the night before. He had polished off that bottle of wine last night, but still, it hadn't added up more than 3 glasses worth. He shouldn't be hungover. Coffee, he decided, was a solution, as it to many life's problems. He dragged himself into the kitchen and put on a pot to brew. Though the thought of eating was unpleasant, he dropped a slice of whole wheat bread into a toaster in case his stomach's emptiness was cause of unrest. Once the brewing and toasting were complete, he sat down on the kitchen table. 1 sip of coffee and 1 bite of toast later, his stomach roiled violently. Without even having made a conscious decision to move, he found himself leaning over the kitchen sink, retching up not only the toast and coffee, but seemingly everything else he had consumed over the past few days. He rinsed out the sink, wet paper towel, and used it to dab his sweaty forehead. His body couldn't have chosen a worse time to get sick. He couldn't miss work. He had to fix the game. He would fix it by lunchtime, he decided, when he could take the rest of the day off to rest and recover. It was almost noon, and Matt's stomach was still roiling like a storm at sea. He moved the wastebasket next to his desk. so he couldn't hurl into the next eating it. Eating lunch was unimaginable. He had been working nonstop to repair the game with no success. He had consulted every manual he owned. He had read extensively from a variety of specialized sites on the internet. He had even put on a phone call with one of his old professors from grad school, but it was all to no avail. Matt wasn't used to being stupid or like a failure, but now he was experiencing both of these unpleasant and accustomed feelings. It was like Springtrap, his own creation, had bested him. There was a knock on his office door. "Come in," Matt said. He hoped it was either someone to save him or put him out of his misery. "Hiya, Matt." It was neither. It was Gary, the head of his department, who was guaranteed in any given situation to A, be of no help whatsoever, and B, deep in his misery. Matt gritted his teeth. "Hey, Gary." Matt hoped his signs of distress weren't visible, but he was pretty sure they were. He was breathing heavily and sweating like he'd just run a marathon. The intensity of the nausea made it difficult to speak. He was afraid he'd open his mouth, something other than words would come out. Gary sat down in the chair across Matt's desk. He was, as always, impeccably groomed. His hair was in perfect Ken doll part, his expensive suit wrinkle-free. "Have you been on social media the past couple of days?" He grinned, flashing his perfectly straight white teeth. "Kids are going nuts over this game. Some adults, too. It's going to be huge." "Matt, huge." "Huge," Matt echoed, trying to smile but failing. His mouth refused to go up at the corners. "So how's it going?" Gary asked, leaning forward in his chair. "Is everything going forward like it needs to? Because I tell you, that deadline is looming." Matt didn't need to be told the deadline was looming. "It was going great," he said, hoping he sounded more convincing than he felt. "Good to hear," Gary said, like he was trying to decide whether he believed him. "Anything I could help you with?" "No, it's going great," Matt repeated, his voice getting a little high-pitched and whiny the way it did when it was nervous. "Excellent," Gary said, getting up from his chair. "Can't wait to see what you have put together. You'll be ready to present on Friday, right?" "Friday, you bet," Matt said, gulping. Gary left, closing the door behind him. Matt put his head down on the desk in despair. He had started the morning feeling confident in his ability to solve the problem, but skies had darkened. Matt took his lunch break, not to eat, but just to get out of the office and try to clear his head. He walked the half a block to Gus's, that dimly lit dive bar that reminded him of cheap places he used to frequent in college. Maybe he could just sip up on a soda and settle his stomach. Also, Gus wouldn't be crowded on lunchtime, and maybe the combination of soda and the dark and quiet world would help him think. Matt placed his order and Gus filled it. Matt wished the whole relationship was going to be that simple. He sipped his cola and thought, okay, there was no time for a major redesign, but there anything else he could do that might save the game and save his job? Matt looked around the room. In the corner were the couple of old video game cabinets that had probably been there since the games were in the new 80s. He started at the demo screen in an old maze game, watching a weird yellow ball guy being pursued by candy-colored ghosts. And then the thought hit him. I can just program a new Springtrap, the one that follows the path it's supposed to. The old program is so messed up it won't have any impact on the game anyway. No one will even know it's there. Why hadn't he thought of this before? The problem was good as solved. He ate a handful of bar peanuts and finished his soda. Something about the combination of saltiness and fizziness knew his stomach. Then he went back to the office to build a new Springtrap, one that followed the path it was supposed to follow. And this time, Matt wouldn't agonize the rabbit. He had learned his lesson. It hadn't been easy hacking into the company's computer, but Gene had done it. Maybe it was a sign that things were looking up. Life hadn't been doing great for them lately. He had gotten fired from his job at Nerd Team at Good Deal Electronics Store and had to move back with his parents until he could find something else, which hadn't happened yet. It was depressing being a girl man living in your childhood bedroom, looking at all those old trophies from Scholar's Bowl and Math Team and realizing how little they meant. That was why they had been packing on the weight. Depression and mom's home cooking were a dangerous combination. But now he at least had one thing going for him. He had his own early copy of Springtrap's Revenge. Because of the superior hacking skills, he was going to be the first one of the people, if not the very first person to play the game. And his superior gaming skills, he might very well become the very first person to beat the game too. And it would be an accomplishment. He put on the VR headset. He was ready to play. Gene created an avatar that looked like his ideal self, like he would look again when he was back on his feet. Getting into the computer system, getting in his game is a good sign, Gene thought. A success that would be the first in a series of successes. Once his avatar was created, Gene found himself standing in the end of the dark hallway. He was walked to the opposite end. There was a door left and the door on the right. Randomly, he chose the one on the right and found himself in a room with 4 doors. Clearly, he had to choose one. From the past experience with FNAF games, he knew the wrong choice would result in a jump scare and a game over screen. He chose the door on his left. He took a deep breath, turned the knob, and pulled. It was clear. He breathed out a sigh of relief, took a few steps forward, and found himself in another dark hallway. He walked forward, slammed into a wall. He had to say the VR features were impressive. When his avatar hit the wall, he could feel the bump. He felt his way to the right. There was another passage forward. He continued feeling his way along the wall. Between the limited perspective offered by the VR and the lack of light, this maze was obviously no joke. But there was one area in his life where Gene would have full confidence in himself. It was gaming. He was going to find his way out. It was strange. It seemed like a part of the fun negotiating the maze and avoiding the creepy characters who lurked around the corners and jumped out when least expected. But so far, there was no creepy characters in sight, not even a title character. The name was called Springtrap's Revenge, so where was Springtrap? Gene Jr., dinner's ready, a voice called from the kitchen, breaking Gene's immersion for the game. Stuffed peppers and macaroni and cheese. I'll be there in a minute, Ma, Gene yelled back, but he knew it would last longer than a minute. He wasn't leaving this game until he found Springtrap. Besides, if there was one thing he knew about Ma, it was that she wasn't going to let him go hungry. If he took too long to come to the table, he'd make him a plate and bring it to his room so he could shovel in his dinner while he played. He saw something green sticking out from the corner of the maze. He went to investigate, stealing himself from the jump scare. But the version of Springtrap he found was undoubtedly scary, was incapable of jumping out at anyone. Springtrap's body lay motionless and flat on his back, its abdomen flayed open. Springs and gears protrude from the wound. His eyes were open and empty. Gene thought it might be a trick, that any second the green rabbit would spring to life to grab Gene's avatar ankle, but the rabbit's foot just laid there. Gene made his avatar nudge its foot, but it was insert. It seemed to be game over for Springtrap. But that didn't make any sense. If this game was about Springtrap's getting revenge, why would the supposed main character be dead in the beginning? Unless the plot turned into some kind of ghost story. Gene Jr., dinner's getting cold. I'll be there in a minute, Ma. Just let me finish filling out this job application, Gene called. He knew if she thought he was applying for a job, he'd stay off his back for a few more minutes. He had to figure out what's going on in Springtrap's Revenge, and the only way to do it was to take a look at the code. It was time to put those superior hacking skills to use again. After a few commands, he was in, but he found it made no sense. According to the code, Springtrap had been extracted from every game that bore his name in the title. The program was initiated, and the extraction was inexplicably called It's a Boy.exe. Matt was hungry, ravenous. He was sitting on a table for two at Ye Old Steakhouse. His companion at the table was Madison, who thankfully was pretty in her pictures, with shiny chestnut hair and big, doe-like brown eyes. It was their first date, but Matt was having a hard time focusing and required chit-chat because he was so hungry. He realized that he scooted the bread basket in front of him, his mindlessly gnawing on his way through the rolls. I'm sorry, would you like some bread? He asked, forcing himself to push the basket in a direction. No breaks, she said, with an awkward grin. I'm watching my carbs. Not me, obviously, Matt said, trying to humor as he tore off another chunk of bread with his teeth. What was this? Roll number 4? Number 5? The server appeared, and before he could even ask him the order, Matt said, porterhouse steak, very rare. There was a loaded baked potato and creamed spinach on the side. Let's get a refill on this bread basket, too. And for you, ma'am? The server turned to Madison. Matt figured it was a subtle jab at him, the reminder that he was supposed to let the lady order first, but he was far too hungry to care about the etiquette. He was so hungry that he felt his medical emergency. The Cobb salad, please, with blue cheese dressing on the side, Madison said. Matt hoped the server would hurry back with that new bread basket before he started to eat the tablecloth. You know, I've always wondered, he said, you girls always order salads when you're out on dates. Like you don't want a guy seeing you eat too much. When you go out with your girlfriends, you order something else? Like a big plate of ribs or something? Ribs, Matt thought. Ribs sound delicious. Madison smiled. It depends on how hungry I am. Sometimes I go out with my best friend, we split a burger and fries. You split a burger and fries? Matt said. That's just like an appetizer or something. Madison giggled. It's really not. Half a cheeseburger is plenty, and a girl's can't eat like you guys can. If I look at a piece of cheesecake, I gain 5 pounds. Cheesecake for dessert. Matt definitely wanted cheesecake. He rarely ordered dessert, but he was going for it tonight. Stop, he told himself. Stop obsessing over food and notice your date. Well, he said finally, whatever you're doing, you keep doing because you look fantastic. Thanks, she said, smiling. Good, Matt thought. When in doubt, give a compliment. It always smooths things over. When the food arrived, Matt felt like starving a lumberjack. The rare steak was an appetizing pool of blood, and when Matt cut into it, the meat was purpley red. I think I just heard it moo, Madison said as Matt felt a dripping chunk of meat to his lips. Well, you won't hear it long because it's going to be in my belly, Matt said. The nearly raw meat was delicious, so intensely so that Matt closed his eyes as he chewed. He ignored the vegetables on his plate and gnawed into the meat, over and over again, cutting off big chunks that filled his cheeks as he chewed. He resented how the knife and fork slowed down his eating. Really, it wouldn't make much more sense to pick up the steak and rend it up chunks into canines. But that's what they're for, aren't they? Table manners, all the rules of etiquette, really were just ways to delay the body to getting what it needed, and Matt's body needed this meat. He wasn't quite sure he had picked the large T-bone from the center of the steak, trying to gnaw on it, growling to himself in animal pleasure. But it seemed he felt Madison's eyes on him. He was sitting across from him, holding a forkful of lettuce in midair, staring at him like he was an exhibit in the zoo. When he felt his eyes on the other customers at the other tables as well, he sat on the bone. I went to the doctor the other day, he lied. He said I appeared to be anemic. I must have needed red meat or something fierce. He must have, Madison said. She reached into her handbag, pulled out her phone, and looked at it for a second. Oh no, she said. I just got a text from my roommate. My cat is sick. I have to go. Thanks for dinner. She didn't stick around long enough to hear Matt say, I'll call you. He satisfied his bottomless hunger. His steak was gone now, and so were the baked potato and cream spinach. He reached across the table for the rest of Madison's mostly uneaten salad. It would be a shame for it to go to waste. As Matt got undressed for his bedtime shower, he caught a glimpse of the reflection in the bathroom mirror and almost didn't recognize himself. His belly was definitely bigger. It was bloated from the enormous dinner he had eaten in the steakhouse, but it seemed like more than standard post-meal bloat. His back didn't look like his handsome face and shrugged. Got a few more pounds. He was still looking good, and historically, being a man with a little extra weight was a sign of prosperity. Matt woke up with a goal in his crystal clearness and simplicity: to make it to the bathroom before it was too late. He threw up the covers and ran. He then spewed the remains of last night's huge expense dinner into the porcelain bowl. He retched and gagged long enough for nothing left to bring up. Strangely, he still felt bloated afterward, and his belly was still distended. It was some kind of weird virus, the symptoms of which the cycles of extreme nausea followed by extreme hunger. If it was a virus, it certainly was hanging for a long time. He would have to ask people at work if they had heard of anybody else having the same symptoms. Matt, are you feeling okay? Jamie asked as he sat in the conference room waiting for the meeting to start. Her brow was knitted in a look of concern, and Matt doubted that was genuine. Oh, it's just a bug I'm having a hard time fighting off, Matt said. The smell of coffee in the room, usually one of his favorite aromas, was nauseating. I'm either nauseated or starving, and I'm bloated and gassy. Do you know how many viruses of those symptoms going around? I don't, Jamie said. And I know all about the bugs because I have kids in school who bring them home. She smiled. Seriously though, maybe you should have a doctor check you out. You're definitely bloated and your color doesn't look good. You're kind of yellowish, like you might have jaundice. Maybe you should get some blood work done and the liver function checked out on the safe side. Oh, doctors don't know anything, Matt said, and neither did Jamie. He didn't even know why he bothered to ask her anything. Gary walked in. It was a negative effect staring at the meeting, but a positive effect at ending any other conversation. Good morning, Gary said, taking his place at the head of the conference table. Well, the release date is in 2 weeks, and the reviews of early screening copies are coming in, and the results are, he looked down his notes, mixed. Jamie let out a little sigh. According to the new reviewers, Gary said, the storyline is good, and the gameplay is challenging, and the jump scare is constant of what the FNAF fans expect. He clears up. However, every single reviewer agreed in one fact: the AI design of Springtrap is sloppy and not up to the game's usual standards. Gary didn't call out Matt by name, but he thought might as well have. With Springtrap's bizarre series of regenerations and deaths after Matt had led him to wander the maze, Matt really needed to rush and create a new AI to plug into the game. But he had no confidence despite the last-minute nature of the work. He had still gotten a good job. Well, good enough anyway. Oh, is that what reviewers are saying? Matt said, his face heated up with anger. Are you going to tell me who these people are, or are they really just you? Yeah, hey, Gary said, holding up his hands as if defending himself. No need to get all riled up. I'm just saying that it's a competitive climate. Nobody can afford to be doing anything but their best work. I always do my best work, Matt said, raising a voice. In fact, I would be doing it right now if you weren't just wasting my time with this pointless meeting. Jamie reached out to touch Matt's arm, but he jerked it away. I know these meetings take away time that you need to work and think, Gary said, but I promise this won't be last long. And after the meeting, Matt, as you were working and thinking, I would suggest that one of the things you would think is an appropriate way to talk to your supervisor. Matt drove home in a rage. He broke the speed limit by double digits and powered through red lights. Let a cop pull me over, he thought. Just let him. Both anger and hunger were gnawing at him. Even though he was bloated and gassy, he felt like a pinprick through his stomach. He just couldn't pop like a balloon. When he drove by a burger joint, the smell of hot grease lured him and turned in. He went through a drive-thru and ordered a double bacon cheeseburger, large fries, and a chocolate shake. Food that would generally dismiss as too unhealthy for human consumption. Not wanting to have slowed down to eating because he was also driving. He pulled into a parking space and devoured the greasy meat and carbs like a ravenous Wolverine. His hunger subsided some. His anger did not. He was in an apartment. Jackson was packing video games in a shelf in a cardboard box. Other filled boxes were scattered across the floor. What's going on? Max asked. Although he was feeling he knew. Listen, man, Jason said, not looking up at him. Megan Fano told me what you did. He said almost he didn't because we're roommates. But then he decided I needed to know. He said you hit on her when you were supposed to be getting to know Eva. You gave her the number when you knew she was on a date with me. Not cool, man. Okay, Matt said. If you want me to apologize, I'll apologize. He didn't need an apology, though. He was trying to forcibly take Megan away from Jason. He'd just been presenting her with choices. Jason shook his head. I see. That's just it. I don't want you to apologize. I want you to stop being a jerk. But unfortunately, I don't see that ever happening, so I'm moving out. You spent your whole meal with the other, and I talk about how prosperous and successful you are. Right before you left us with the bill. You don't need any help with rent. You can afford the place without me. I can, Matt said. But I want you to stay. He didn't know why, but he had a sudden desperate need not to be alone. It was vague but persistent feeling as if he were left alone, something bad would happen. Yeah, and even wanted you to be nice to her, but she didn't get well that wish either. She's a super nice person, Matt. She deserved better. Yeah, you fixed me up with a girl with a great personality, Matt said, laughing bitterly. You kept the pretty one for yourself. Jason threw up his hands. Okay, look, I can't have this conversation right now. I'm leaving. Tonight I'm borrowing a truck from a buddy. I'll come back in the morning and get my stuff when you're at work. I think it's best if you and I stay out of each other's way for a while. Jason grabbed his keys and was out the door. Matt got a beer from his fridge and sat down on the couch. He had things gotten bad so fast. He didn't really need to ask. He knew the answer. It was that rabbit. He couldn't explain it, but somehow the rabbit was to blame. The beer tasted sour and unpleasant, and Matt felt the sickly booming in the head had gone right to his right temple. He reached up to the massage's head and felt a hard knob pushing against his scalp. Was it possible he got hit in the head and a hard knot to form and didn't remember it? And if he didn't remember it, what would it have been? He had some kind of brain injury that was causing him to lose his mind? Or maybe it was physical health, not his mental health, he was worried about. Matt needed someone to talk to about his problems, but there was no one. Hannah had abandoned him, a string of ungrateful girlfriends had abandoned him, and now Jason, his best friend, had abandoned him. As if it weren't for all bad enough, he was unappreciated and criticized at work. Perhaps his loneliness is a sad price to pay for his brilliance. Like so many geniuses before him, he was isolated and misunderstood. For the first time in his adult life, Matt found himself crying real tears. Matt couldn't fasten his pants yesterday. They had been tight fit, but still fit. But today they were impossible. Today he had lounged around in pajama pants all day. But now, trying to fit into real pants, it was apparent that his belly was swollen to the size of a 34 waistline was only a fond memory. He tried another more forgiving pair and then another, all to no avail. The discarded pants lay strewn in his bed. The problem was that he was a date in a few minutes, and while he didn't find the most rules of etiquette to be stupid and oppressive, he did accept the fact that a public date generally required one to wear pants. He dug through the closest and found a size 36 in the very back. He kept into them, and then they still wouldn't fasten over his belly. Finally, he pulled them down below the mountainous swelling and managed to zip them up. The button still wouldn't close, and he managed to secure them with a belt. It wasn't the ideal situation, but it would have to do. Matt had an urgent meeting for this new date, another internet adequate, in a bar. This way, he reasoned, if the date turned out to be as drastic as the last one, at least he wouldn't have to pay for dinner. The bar was one of those sleek modern places favored by young urban professionals, all chrome and glass and indirect lighting. Walking in, he caught the reflection in one of the many places mirrors, and momentarily startled. His belly was so bloated that the buttons of the shirt were straining, the gaps between the buttons revealing a yellowish skin. His face and hair were drenched with sweat, as if it was his imagination, or was his hair also getting thinner? Still, Max knew he was a lot more going than him than any losers in this bar. Emma was the new girl's name, right? Emma was lucky to be going out with him. He didn't recognize her at first. He was sitting at the table alone and gave him a little wave. Her face was pretty, like she remembered seeing on the dating site. It was her honey blonde hair. But the picture he used on the site must have been taken a good 25 pounds ago. The girl was chunky. It was a good thing he hadn't committed to taking her out to dinner. He probably wouldn't afford to feed her. Well, it was too late to slip out now. He was already spotted him. He pasted on a smile and walked up to the table. Emma? Matt? She smiled broadly and gestured him to sit down. So what were you drinking? Appletini? One fruity girl drink coming up. He lets me go conserve with the barkeep. He went to the bar and ordered the girl drink for Emma and the martini for himself. It was strong, but he had a feeling he was going to need it to get through this date. Yum, thank you, Emma said and set down the toxic-looking green drink in front of her. Thanks for figuring out this place. It's really cool. I'm ashamed to admit, I don't get out much. Most nights after work, I just put up my pajamas and watch Netflix and eat a gallon of ice cream, Matt thought. But he just smiled and nodded. Yeah, sometimes I just end up hanging out with my roommate and playing video games, Matt said, and then he remembered Jason wasn't a roommate anymore. No need to tell her that, though. He already decided he was never going to see her again. Well, you're a video game developer, she said, sipping her cocktail. So when you hang out and play video games, that's like research, right? He managed to train a smile. Something was happening in his abdomen. Pressure was building in an unpleasant way. Most was like the force was pushing his belly from the inside. He took a sip of his martini, which hit his stomach like battery acid. He had a grimace because Emma asked, "Are you okay?" Sure, he said. But he wasn't. He felt like he was going to burst like an overripe berry. He couldn't sit there and make polite chit-chat, but let me just go ahead and tell you right now, this is going to work out. So you enjoy your drink, and I'm going to say goodnight. Now wait just a second, Emma said. You've barely even talked to me. It's way too soon to figure out whether you think I'm an interesting person or not. So tell me, how do you know it's not going to work out? Was she going to force him to say? Apparently it was okay. She was. Okay, Emma, I'm sure you have a great personality, but when you post a picture of yourself in a date site, it needs to look like you. Not you 25 pounds ago. Emma's mouth dropped open. I can't believe you have the nerve to say that to me. First of all, it's all shallow and offensive, and second of all, you looked in a mirror lately? Free. There's everywhere in this place. Your picture online is at least 35 pounds ago. Did I notice that you came in? Sure. but that didn't bother me. What would bother me was you're a gigantic hypocrite. Fine. Well, I think the one thing we can mutually agree on is this date is over. Matt stood up and then he heard an odd pop, pop, pop sound through something making popcorn. He felt a cool breeze over his torso. Looking down, he realized his bloated belly had caused all the buttons of his shirt to pop off and now exposed the general public to see. Emma laughed. She laughed so hard she snorted. She laughed till her eyes watered. I can't believe it, she said between giggles. This is the best bad date ever. Wait till I tell my girlfriends. Matt tried to clutch his shirt closed and fled the premises. As soon as he hit the sidewalk, the pressure from his belly snapped his belt buckle, and he had to hold up his pants on his other hand to keep him from falling down. He relinquished the grip on the shirt long enough to let into his car. He was needed to get home and his terrible night would be over. Back at his apartment, Matt changed into a baggy t-shirt and a pair of elastic-waisted pajama pants. Tomorrow he would have to go shopping for new clothes, but that would be shopped. But he was going to turn into one of those tacky people who wore pajamas in public. The pressure in his stomach was getting worse, and the weird knot in his head was turning where it was retching his skin and his scalp. Maybe he had some medicine that might help him. He went to the kitchen, chewed up a couple of antacid tablets, and drank a glass of water. He waited for relief, and it didn't come. Instead, he pressured and streaked. Even the soft t-shirt he was wearing felt irritated. He took it off and looked down at his watermelon-shaped belly. The pressure on the inside was pounding, pummeling. He looked at the skin in his belly. There was movement underneath. He felt a pounding, faint imprint of an indeterminate shape showed up on his skin. Matt sniffled and screamed as he realized the truth. Something was inside him. It was trying to get out. The painful pounding became more insistent, a drumbeat of agony. If it was out of him, whatever it was, the pain would stop. Get it out, he thought as he squeezed his eyes shut and clenched his jaw. He grabbed his t-shirt and bit down the fabric just to have some kind of outlet for pain. If he got it out, the pain would stop. But how? There was no place for it to go. Another surge of pain hit him, this one crushing. He doubled over and grabbed a kitchen counter support. His gaze turned to the kitchen knives hanging on the magnetic strip wall. He could cut it out. Cutting would relieve the pressure. It would get whatever was out. He could be free of whatever this burden was. He wanted to be free. He grabbed the largest, sharpest kitchen knife and lay on his back on the floor. Starting the decision was the hardest part, but the pain made inside him greater than any pain he caused himself. He sank the knife dip into his top abdomen and drew the blade downward, biting down his t-shirt so the neighbors wouldn't hear a scream. There was pain, but there was no relief. The pressure stopped, the blood flowed, and Matt saw, emerging from the incision, a long green rabbit ear. The whole rabbit emerged, wet and slimy with mucus, a perfectly formed spring trap of the size of a healthy newborn infant. But unlike the newborn infant, the rabbit would pull itself out of the incision, land on the kneeling position on the kitchen floor, and rise to stand. The blood loss was making Matt fade in and out of consciousness. Even in the idle state, he could see the creature had spawned was spring-trapped, but now not spring-trapped. This one was realer, more organic than the one in the video game. Matt's mind drifted back to the story his mom had read him when he was little about the stuffed toy rabbit that wished so hard to be real that it became real. Springtrap had stood over Matt's bleeding body. It was an amalgamation of code that somebody like him was programmed into a computer. The Springtrap was real. The green rabbit sat down on the floor beside Matt and rested Matt's head in its furry lap. It felt nice. Matt was losing so much blood. Could a person lose this much blood and still stay alive? The rabbit stroked Matt's cheek. The Matt didn't know if he heard the word come out of the rabbit's mouth or if it was only one in his head. Daddy. So, you entered the apartment and you found him like this? The police officer was taking notes as they talked in the blood-drenched kitchen. Yes, officer. Jason was shaking, and he couldn't feel his heart thudding in his chest. I was moving out of this apartment. I came here at 10 o'clock to get my stuff. 10 a.m.? The officer asked. Yes, sir. I thought Matt would be at work, but instead I found him here. He heard the sob in his voice. He was trying to hold it together, but it wasn't succeeding. So you were roommates. But you were moving out of the apartment, the officer said. Have you had a disagreement? Yeah, kind of. Just a little one. Nothing that would lead to something like this. And I mean, I'm not a violent person. I would never do something like this anyway. Jason wished somebody would cover up the body, but even when they did, he knew he would unsee it. It was like Matt was gutted like a fish. His shirtless torso was a gaping hole, blood that gushed from the sides of the wound, and now forming a large congealing puddle in the kitchen floor. The now bloody kitchen knife Jason had used countless times to chop vegetables was Matt's lifeless hands. Did your roommate have any enemies? Anyone who would wish him ill? Officer said. I mean, Matt said, a prickly guy. Not always the easy person to get along with. But because he could be annoying doesn't mean anybody wanted him dead, the officer nodded. Had he shown any signs of depression or suicidal thoughts? I think he was kind of depressed. Yeah, Jason said. He had a nasty divorce and breakups and a few rebound relationships after that. I also got the feeling there was a lot of stress at work, though. He wasn't the kind of person who would talk about that kind of thing much. Jason looked down at his friend's body. It was the last thing he wanted to see. So why do you keep looking at it? Why would someone do this to themselves? The officer looked up his notes. Well, son, in my line of work, you never stop being surprised about what people are capable of. He looked down at the body and then squinted to see something he had noticed before. He put on a plastic glove and then squatted down on the floor, reaching for something. It was a clump of something green and fuzzy, like an artificial fur of a stuffed animal. Do you have any idea what this could be? The officer asked. Jason looked at the unfamiliar green fur. It was covered in unpleasant slime and a clear mucus. I have no idea, Jason said. The officer rolled slimy hairs between his fingers and thumb, and looking at them in apparent confusion, then shrugged and wiped his hands on a clean paper towel. Whoa! So, Plushtrap was born. Like, actually born. That's disgusting. Actually, very disgusting. Especially for a FNAF book, but that was also really cool. Anyways, it's been a long video, so I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. People like me, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.